Easter's in full bloom at Whole Foods Market with great deals on spiral cut bone-in ham and leg of lamb, both crowd pleasers. Round out your spread with quiche, deviled eggs, and delicious catering platters from Prepared Foods. Oh, and remember to pick up a Whole Foods Market bunny cake from the bakery. Strapped for time? They cater too, with delicious options available without the effort. Find hundreds of Easter deals and delights now at Whole Foods Market.
Dreaming of a better sleep? Tossing and turning is not your destiny. And Ollie is here to help. Ollie invites you to sink into sweet, sweet slumber to improve your mental and physical health and overall wellness. More than just melatonin, Ollie's ingredients help you unwind your mind for a delightfully dreamy drift off. Sleep is on the way at Ollie.com. That's OLLY.com.
It's only a kick, a jump, a block. It's only a serve. It's only a tackle, a run. It's only for the fans. After all, it's only pressure. You got this. Adidas.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms, and we have our own apps for Apple and Android. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Anfield Index Podcast, the oldest show on the network, the OG show on the network. I'm Trev Downey. I'm in my field here in beautiful rural Ireland. It's getting dark at 21 minutes past 7 in the evening here, and it's wet and it's a little bit chilly. And that's about right for March in Ireland. But of course, I am joined by someone from the altogether more, I think we can say, exotic sounding Tennessee. And that is Lisa Marie Hanahan. It's only the two of us this evening, Lisa Marie. Hopefully that's not too irritating for you. Nice to have you back on the show and nice to be having a bit of a chat. How are you doing this week?
I'm doing well. And it is a beautiful, sunshiny spring afternoon here in Tennessee today. I mean, not to rub it in or anything, but, you know. But it has. We've had gorgeous weather this week, which is nice, you know, because it was kind of rainy and a little bit chilly for us even last week. So it looks to be a beautiful weekend, which is always nice for Easter weekend. And yeah, so I don't have too many complaints about the weather, which, you know, can be unusual for me as we launch here into episode 382 of the Anfield Index Podcast.
Superb segue, and I love the way I didn't even have to prompt you. We've got this down, buddy. We do. It's tremendous. Just before we go any further into our chat, I do want, if you are listening to this show, and if you're a regular or if you're a new listener or wherever you fall in between on that spectrum, you will be aware that things are changing a little bit on the channel because they have to. The cost of doing these things has risen. The ability for us to put stuff out there for free has very much diminished, and that's not something that we're delighted about, but nonetheless it is just simply the way things are, and it is, and it always has been, my opinion that the best stuff is not free, despite what some people will assert. And if you do want to help us, you could consider becoming a kind of permanent member of the cool crew around here by signing up to be a member of Anfield Index Pro. It is a very small amount of money. You'll have heard it at the end of the half hour because you'll be familiar with it at this stage. I don't think it even requires mentioning to be perfectly specific with you. It is a small amount for the amount that you get. And I make no bones about that. And of course, listen, you're not talking to a rich man here. I understand the value of money. I understand what it means. we would like to think that what we provide is absolutely worth that amount of money. That's the conversation I'm having with you. And if you feel it is, and if you'd like more of these shows, sometimes 50% more, sometimes 100% more, sometimes if it's me and Hendrik, it's probably going to be about 200% more, because we don't do short shows. So I think it's very well worth your while. If you have any way, shape or means to do it, do become one of the members of the Cool Kid Gang. Sign up for a membership. It is very, very small in the greater scheme of things for most of us. And for those of us who it isn't a small amount for, well, then hopefully you can continue to enjoy the amount of the shows that are available to you, because we're glad that we can do that at least. Listen, Marie, I feel like it jars a little bit at the start of the show to begin like that, but I do think it's important, because you'll be probably in agreement, because I know you're an avid listener to the content on the channel, as I am myself. You'll be an avid agreement as well, I'd imagine, that, you know, the quality is there. I mean, it's not really just kind of blowing smoke up our own nether regions. There are so many really good people doing really good stuff, and I don't really listen to a whole lot of stuff, and I absolutely stopped listening to sports content and football content. And yet there are shows on AI that I have to listen to. I listen to Dave every day. I love his shows, and I
listened to when he was off for a few days last week. I mean, it sort of threw me for a loop. I mean, obviously he is very much entitled to taking a few days off, but I very much realize how much I kind of shape my day a little bit. His podcast, I tend to listen to it kind of about the same time every day. The Daily Red one, the other one, the 2-footed, you know, can kind of vary, but generally that goes up right around the time I'm starting my work day. So yeah. I oftentimes, that's kind of how I kind of kick off my work day is listening to the Daily Red. So yes, and you and Mr. Hendrik very much are value for the money. You know, 90 minutes. 2 hours, whatever. I mean,
I know we really need to rein it in, but you know,
no, you don't, because here's the thing: it doesn't feel like that, or at least it doesn't to me. I guess I shouldn't speak for everybody, but it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, how long have these two been droning on? Will they wrap it up? No, not at all. It's fantastic. So anyway.
Well, like I say, there's plenty out there for everyone to have their own favorites and wrap their ears around. And it's a lot of very good people doing a lot of very good work, top of the table stuff, in my opinion. I don't think there's fan media out there to rival it. I'm very proud of my association with this channel. And I will be doing a much shorter version of this kind of thing at the start of most shows, in the hopes that perhaps we can increase the membership of AI Pro over a very short next couple of months, because I'll tell you what, Lisa Marie, it's going to be very, very exciting. We have this much vaunted league run in now. I've listened to so many people talk about it. I have my own opinions. Whether they contrast with others, whether they complement others, is neither here nor there. It's just a constant obsession now for me. What's remaining of this season. And, you know, just before we get into any specifics, I'm curious to talk about one thing with you, because again, you know, we've gotten to know each other through our AI connection here, and through you working on the show with me, and you get a feel for, you know, what other people's take is generally like. We have an awful lot in common, I think, in the way that we kind of try to perceive what sport is for us. It should be a source of joy, and so on and so forth. But it is an interesting thing, this, isn't it? This is kind of where I'm going with it. We have a period of time ahead now, the remainder of March, the month of April, and the month of May. And we will be, as individuals, hugely impacted by what another group of individuals are doing as they nip around football pitches across England and across Europe. It's a very strange position to put yourself in. Obviously, it's not an uncommon one. There are, you know, millions at least anyway, hundreds of millions of football fans around the world. but it does sometimes feel as if it's a very reckless way to live your life in terms of where you draw your contentment from. And I guess where I'm going with this is, where would you put it on that kind of level? Obviously, we both have families, we both have work, we both have all sorts of other things plates that we're spinning at the same time, and places where we derive, satisfaction from, comfort from, and all the rest of it. But I have come to the very sad realization that football's got a huge part to play in my general happiness, because I've made it that way in my life. I can write off bad news pretty quickly in most situations, but these next few weeks, I'll find it very difficult to rationalize away if they don't work out for us. I think it's going to have an impact on me. And like I said, I think I've had this chat with you before, but it does seem like a silly way to live your life sometimes, doesn't it?
It does, but, there are sillier ways, I suppose. So, why not? Yeah, as you're saying that, I was thinking that it's so funny this time. I mean, of course, this next couple of months is going to be very busy for Liverpool football, but in general, this is always a busy time of year for me, regardless. Although not as busy as it might have been in years past, but as the school year winds down and all those things, it's just generally can be a very busy time of year. So sometimes that's been a bit of frustration for me in that I've missed being able to see, kind of key football matches because of, other things of importance that are going on in my life. So we'll see how it all pans out this year. But yeah, I mean, it is funny, like that last match before the international break. Now, I didn't get to see the whole thing, but because it did go into the extra time, I got home just as I think it was going into extra time. So I did see all of that. And it did just leave me with sort of a down, just sense of loss, I guess, for lack of a better word, over the loss, just regret. And okay, well, I mean, we all knew the 4 trophy thing, the quadruple was, very, very, very unlikely, but it was still something nice to think about. And so, the fact that, oh, well, that's gone, was a little bit sad. And I think it's been a little harder. It felt like it took me a little bit longer to get past it, but I think it's because there wasn't a next game for a while, oftentimes I think it's a little bit easier to get past those types of things when it's like, okay, well, on to the next one, but we've had to wait a couple weeks for that next one to come along. So that just little sense of sadness, if you will, lingered for me a little bit longer than it often does. But then now all these people keep talking about only 10 more games of, we're entering the last weeks of Jürgen Klopp. And I'm like, stop it. I'm not ready to think about that yet.
Yeah.
I'm not ready to think about that yet. Please quit.
I think a lot of people are in that exact same boat, whether they're paddling away furiously in the opposite direction or whatever, but they're absolutely in that same boat, because I know I am. I don't want to engage with it. And you'll remember when the news broke first, the first thing I was saying on this show was like, yeah, let's not talk about that. Let's just talk about what's left. Let's focus on the chunk of the season that's left and enjoy that for what it is. And it is a sizable period of time that you can't exactly write off. And then we'll see what happens afterwards and see how we feel afterwards in the context of what the next couple of months brings. Because it would be actually quite naive to think that won't have an influence on how everybody feels, because with the best will in the world, no people won't want to hear this necessarily, but it is true. If we come up short in the league and we lose, say, another final under Jürgen in Europe, and that's how the season sort of peters out, I think, an awful lot of people will be better disposed towards, well, maybe it is time for a change, no matter how much they've loved the Jürgen era. Whereas I think if we end the season with a European trophy being won in Dublin and a party on the back of having won the league and a parade and all those things. I mean, the joy will be unconfined, but so also, ironically, will be the heartbreak at the idea of this ending. And people will be making all sorts of desperate pleas. I'd say there'll be lads camping on Jürgen's lawn. Poor Ola will have to, get the sprinkler system working to keep lads out because people are going to get obsessed. So it is going to have a massive bearing on how we are feeling about the whole thing. Like, in the general scheme of things, it's just sad. It's bad. Most of us would rather keep a hold of this very unique man, for sure. But we've had a little bit of a wrinkle, of course, in the last couple of days about this. And I wouldn't mind speaking to you about it because, again, you've said many times that, your association with the club wouldn't go back as far as when Xabi Alonso was playing football for the Reds. And therefore, you wouldn't have necessarily the same, if any, connection to him as a footballer or as a person or whatever. But it was remarkable, and it continues to amaze me, the connection that so many people seemed to feel towards Xabi Alonso, who went on to have the more successful parts of his career after he left Liverpool, with huge clubs like Bayern Munich and Real Madrid. I've found it quite difficult to get my head around the amount of love and obsession around Xabi Alonso that there was. I have my own theories that, for an awful lot of people, it's just because he looks really good. He's also doing a superb job, and it's. But I honestly do believe that the obsession would have been just as great if Leverkusen had been second in the Bundesliga. I honestly don't know that that's making the difference for a huge amount of people. What he's doing with that club is remarkable. And I actually found myself, when the news broke via Bad News Paul Joyce that he was not going to be in the shake-up for Liverpool. And now the news today that he's going to hang around and continue at Leverkusen. As someone who did admire him massively as a footballer, who won the European Cup with us, I actually think I found myself in admiration of that decision. I think that's a big, big call. It's almost like he wants to stay and make his own thing, build his own little empire there. And I find that admirable. And I'm actually almost relieved, Lisa Marie, that's not going to be the ongoing chat now for the next few months. I don't know how you feel about all of this or what its impact has been on you.
This episode is brought to you by Pepsi Wild Cherry. Pepsi Wild Cherry is bursting with delicious cherry flavor and a sweet, crisp taste that gives you more to go wild for. Getting wild may look different these days, but whether it's opting for a solo Friday binge watch or a big night out, everyone can indulge in their wild side with Pepsi Wild Cherry. Also available in Zero Sugar. So grab a Pepsi Wild Cherry and get wild.
Ohio, ready for some quick mental health facts? Let's go. Nearly 2 million Ohioans live with a mental health condition. In the U.S., more than 50% of people will be diagnosed with a mental illness in their lifetime. Depression is a leading cause of disability worldwide. So why are some of us still stigmatizing people living with a mental health condition when we know all of this? Let's listen to the facts and beat the stigma. Ohio, challenge what you know about mental health at beatthestigma.org.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes, and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Once again, you and I line up very, very similarly. That was a hard word to say. So yeah, and of course, you're right. You know, I don't recall Xabi Alonso, the player, so that was on a different sort of level or whatever for me. You know, and then I took a little closer look at what he's been doing, especially in the last year or so at Bayern Leverkusen. I'm like, okay, this looks good, but that's a smaller club. And, anyway, I mean, I was never 100% sold on the idea of him as Jürgen Klopp's successor. Not that I don't think maybe eventually, but I just felt he needed a little more experience on a little bit bigger of an arena or a stage, if you will. But when the news broke last night, that was he went up a couple notches in my esteem, if you will, because to me it was like that was a smart decision. I mean, not to say that if he had decided to pursue Liverpool or Bayern Munich or wherever else, it wouldn't be a smart decision. But to me, it was a wise decision. That's a better word, because I thought he's not grabbing at that next level. I think he seems as though, and of course, none of us know what he's thinking, but he recognizes that the better move is to stay there, to continue to build on what he's done, to take this team and compete on the Champions League level with them. Who knows, he's doing very well in the Europa League, of course, so far, and, could potentially go on to win it. We don't know. We don't know how that's all going to play out yet. So I really kind of, I kind of was amused at the sort of meltdown on Twitter last night when that news broke and everybody just, oh no, he's broken our heart again. And all the comments, it was, I don't know, a bit of an overreaction in my estimation, but that's why it was kind of funny to read and watch. So yeah. So this to me is like levels him up, I guess, in my thoughts on him, because the next go round, whoever the manager is after Jürgen, to me, that puts him in a better position to step into that spot if he so desires, you just don't know how it's all going to play out, of course. But yeah, I was okay with it. And I actually did mention or message our friend, Mr. Hendrick. And I said, you know what, this notches him up, and I think more of him now. And he said, yeah, agreed.
Well, that's nice to hear that we're all kind of on the same level when we heard that, because it just, listen, I'd have been delighted if we got one of the most promising managerial talents. Absolutely. And who wouldn't? But I just thought there was something a little bit odd about the obsession that I couldn't quite understand. Because look, the other main candidate, at least it was the other main candidate before the whole return of Edwards and the drafting in of Hughes and Burchill and all the rest, and the whole new makeup behind the scenes. The other major candidate was Ruben Amorim. And when I heard about him being a candidate, I went off and had a little look to see what it was that, people were talking about in relation to Ruben Amorim, because I wasn't going to pretend that I knew a lot about the guy. That's literally, I want to be perfectly honest here about this kind of thing. I don't have time, and the time that I do have spare, like I just told you before we pressed record, I like to listen to books and on Audible and read books and learn about the history of the world and read about politics and read novels. That's how I make myself feel better about my existence, or sometimes a lot worse about my existence. But anyway, I may feel shit, but I feel like smarter and shit at the same time. So that's what I do. That's what my free time consists of. Not, absolutely scouring the European leagues to wonder who the next big thing is, or being familiar with the latest league results in the Portuguese Premier League. So it was news to me when I went off to discover that Ruben Amorim was actually quite an impressive young man indeed. I think 39 years of age. He has won something with Braga, which are, comparatively unfashionable club. He has won the league with Sporting and 2 other cups as well. And again, what people need to remember is that means he's up against Benfica and Porto. And what I like about this, Lisa Marie, is that with Jürgen, he won his trophies up against the absolute monsters of Bayern. And with Rafa Benitez, who was the manager who signed Xabi Alonso, he, with Valencia, won a couple of La Ligas against Barcelona and Real Madrid. And this, I think, bodes very well in terms of managerial capability. And then, you think about, I went to have a look and see how they're getting on this year. And they are sitting second, 2 points behind Benfica, but they have 2 games in hand over Benfica. So that's interesting, to say the least. And you're looking at another guy who could win his regional league in that situation. And that would be another feather in this guy's cap. Now, look, I'm not selling this guy, but I do understand why, let's say, perhaps some of the more, I'm reluctant to say discerning, but some of the more football SWAT type people were very interested in Amorim, because he does seem to have a track record there, Lisa Marie, that is quite enviable and looks like it might be a good fit for Liverpool 2.0.
Again, we're so boring today as we're agreeing. I guess you're going to have to tee me up next time if we're going to argue about something.
Let's not argue.
I know, not argue. Not argue. Have a spirited discussion. How's that?
Okay. We'll try.
But no, I mean, the more I kind of read a little bit about him and or listen to some of the various podcasts that have been available on the channel talking a little more in depth about Amorim, I mean, he looks to be a good fit. I kind of don't want to get I've been trying also not to sort of set my heart on one person or another, just so that if that doesn't come to fruition, if that isn't who the next manager is, that, I can kind of shrug that off. And, I mean, of course, I'm going to fully support whoever it is, but, I don't want to, I've been really trying to kind of keep an open mindset as the various candidates and things have been sort of speculated on and discussed and everything else, and not sort of, not having my heart set on, one person over another, just, thinking about it and, reading a little bit and going, yeah, that sounds like he would be a good fit. That sounds like he would work. Now, I don't know if you've seen these, and I haven't seen anything very concrete except other just little silly mentions on Twitter about a couple people that they're like, oh, so-and-so, Gareth Southgate. No way in hell.
Yeah. I'm glad you.
Honestly, it doesn't really worry me, because I'm pretty sure I just honestly cannot see it going that way. Not that I know anything about the inner workings of, FSG, but I just don't foresee that being.
It doesn't make any sense. And look, the basic parameter or criteria that the potential new manager post Klopp was a guy who had success under his belt, and it looked as if Alonso was come under the slide under the fence at the last minute with a very impressive bit of success. Amorim already has that, and he may have more by the end of the season, and that's very interesting. But that's where I think Southgate is out of the question, and it, to me, feels like something that's being perpetuated by mainstream media trolling as much as anything else. Mm-hmm. Sky Sports put out a tweet there earlier on, like, who should be the next Liverpool manager. The most recent response is Amorim. Then, like, the next one up is Scotty Parker. Then you've got two for Southgate. You've got, honestly, like someone's suggesting Pochettino. It's daft stuff. Someone else. What I'm saying is it's open season for trolls, and that's exactly what seems to have happened. And I would have, listen, the main reason so many people, and I spoke to Dave Davis about this on the show last night, and the two of us are actually kind of in some kind of accord, which we wouldn't necessarily always be when it comes to stuff around the club, about the idea of the backroom team and how excited we were about Michael Edwards and all the rest of it. And both of us were very much of the mind that, well, look, get on and do your cool nerd stuff in the background. But please don't ask me to be as excited as a lot of people in several WhatsApp threads that I am part of are. I can't. I'm sorry. I like I said to Dave on the show, spreadsheets and profits and having the most efficient run club, that doesn't keep me warm at night. What keeps me warm at night is the little miniature replica of the European Cup that I'm going to get, or a t-shirt that marks the amount of league titles that we'll have won by the end of the season. That's the kind of thing that gets my engine running. And whereas I absolutely appreciate that the club is appointing the guy who seems to be the most coveted, I think that's fantastic. I'm all for that. But I'm only going to start getting really interested in it when we have a manager on board. So I do, like you said, I maybe it's a bit daft, but now that we've got Edwards back again in situ, and we have ample evidence of good decisions having been made when he was there at the club before, and him putting together or being part of a very good backroom staff, I'm quite confident that that's what will happen, that the right appointment will be made. There are a couple of knock-on things, though, from that we should possibly have a little bit of a chat about. Because between now and the end of the season, it's kind of, I don't know if you noticed this, but I get the feeling that it's sort of like, it's quite liberating for Jürgen in some ways. Certainly the way he could just sort of walk out on that guy who annoyed him with a question. I wonder, is he going to become a bit of a wild card when it comes to saying things about how certain games are going? He's always been quite vocal, but I wonder, will he just throw caution to the wind now completely? And one of the things he absolutely could be vocal about, and possibly should be vocal about before he leaves, is the standard of officiating. And like I said, yes, and this is where I wanted to go with you on this. Let's just take that as given. It's not Liverpool tinted glasses. It's a simple fact. It's statistically provable. We've been on the end of more shitty decisions than any of the other clubs that are in the shake-up for the title, at least, probably in total. We know that we keep getting this one fixture that Jürgen has complained about at a higher rate by a multiple of 4 or 5 than any other club gets. And again, people rationalize that way and say, well, we're the club people want to watch, so what are you going to do? And that does hold some water, but it also does... it also adds to the whole feeling of things being against us. Here's where I'm going with this in a very long-winded way. Would you think there's a reason? Would you think there's any merit? Do you think it's needlessly controversial between now and the end of the season for the club to perhaps register their disillusionment with the standard of officiating. Is that in and of itself a dangerous thing to do, or is it a dangerous and courageous and possibly necessary thing to do? Should they try to ally themselves to one or two other clubs before they do it? Or is it just something that we just have to accept? And that last part, I find it difficult to get my head around, just accepting it, but I'm open to being convinced differently. How do you feel about that? First of all, do you think, am I talking nonsense? Is that just something we just have to kind of ignore and get on with? Or should a stand be taken at this stage?
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
The delicious ice-cold taste of Dr. Pepper has a lasting effect on people. Lindsay from Sacramento said,
Pro tip, 40 degrees is the perfect temperature for an ice-cold Dr. Pepper.
Why is 40 degrees the perfect temperature for Dr. Pepper? We brought in Sue from Duluth, Minnesota to tell us.
Oh, yeah, I know a thing or two about cold. Oh, that right there is the perfect kind of ice cold for Dr. Pepper. I'd share that with my friend Nancy. She likes Dr. Pepper, too, you know. My cold
All right, that'll be all, Sue. Having a perfect temperature for your Dr. Pepper? It's a Pepper thing. Inspired by real fan posts.